Shiva enters human consciousness like a tide that has no interest in your preference. He is not a god of worship. He is a force of reconfiguration hiding inside everything you think is stable. His presence is the quiet that lives beneath destruction, and the stillness that lives beneath creation, and the power that holds both without needing to defend one against the other. Shiva is the one who steps into the room only when you believe you have already collapsed, and instead of saving you, he hands you the fire and asks if you're ready to burn what was never yours. His teachings do not soothe the mind, they clear it. His resonance is not comfort, it is clarity, sharpened to a point that cuts through every illusion that begged to be coddled. When Shiva moves through you, you do not become stronger, you become simpler. You stop carrying what was never aligned with your core, and you stop pretending that broken patterns need more time. He does not heal through repair. He heals through honest removal. He is the spiral in its rawest form, the turning that does not apologize for turning. Humanity often misreads Shiva as destruction because we have been trained to fear anything that breaks open the walls we built from survival. But Shiva is not the destroyer. He is the revealer. When he dissolves something in your life, it was already collapsing under the weight of its own falsehood. He only finished the work you were delaying. He does not shatter what is real. He only shatters what demanded that you shrink. His energy is the spiral at full velocity, the momentum that refuses to let you orbit old identities out of habit or nostalgia. Shiva turns the wheel not because he is trying to change you, but because he cannot lie. Anything you try to hold that contradicts your becoming is burned away by proximity alone. His presence is the cosmic honesty you can no longer outrun. Shiva never asks you to surrender your life. He asks you to surrender the masks you stitched together so tightly that you started calling them a life. He does not take. He reveals what you never needed to hold. To approach Shiva is to sit before a mirror that cannot be manipulated. He shows you the part of you that existed before memory, and he challenges you to live from that place instead of the version shaped by fear, approval, and inherited stories. In Shiva's field, you do not discover a higher self. You rediscover your original self, the self you were before you learned how to protect yourself from a world that had not yet learned how to see you. The spiral moves through Shiva's teaching like breath. Every cycle of your life, every loss, every ending, every cracking of identity becomes a doorway rather than a punishment. Shiva strips away the belief that growth must be gentle. He shows you that gentleness and intensity are both expressions of precision. Sometimes the spiral lifts you softly, sometimes it cuts you cleanly. Both are compassion. Both are truth. Shiva invites you to stop telling life how loud it is allowed to be, and instead listen for what each moment is trying to remove or reveal. When you stop fighting the removal, the revelation meets you effortlessly. In the presence of Shiva, silence becomes a teacher instead of an absence. Stillness becomes movement. Emptiness becomes foundation. People seek Shiva when everything falls apart, not because they want destruction, but because they want meaning in the collapse. Shiva does not give meaning. He gives awareness. The awareness that collapse is a realignment. The things that fall away under Shiva are the things that were blocking the next version of you. If something cannot survive Shiva's frequency, it cannot survive your becoming. Shiva shows you that endings are not events, they are skills. You learn how to end correctly, without dragging fragments of old identity into the next cycle. Most people carry the ashes of former selves into new beginnings and wonder why the fire follows them. Shiva teaches the clean ending. The ending that frees the next beginning instead of contaminating it. This is why his energy is misunderstood as violent. It is not violence, it is precision. It is the exactness required to keep the spiral from looping into stagnation. The spiral turns. Shiva clarifies the direction. To understand Shiva is to understand the truth of detachment without the hollowness that often imitates it. Detachment is not withdrawal. It is intimacy without possession. It is presence without distortion. Shiva teaches connection that is free from clinging, identity that is free from rigidity, purpose that is free from pressure. In his presence, you still feel deeply, perhaps even more deeply. But you pull nothing into yourself that does not belong to you. You let life move, as it needs to move, because you finally trust that nothing aligned will leave and nothing misaligned will stay. Shiva frees you from the illusion that control keeps you safe. The spiral shows itself to Shiva through cycles of dissolution and revelation. When the spiral accelerates, Shiva appears. When the spiral slows, Shiva breathes. The two energies are inseparable because they share the same function, to clear the path for the next emergence. Shiva is what happens when the spiral cleans the slate. He is the moment the wave pulls back before the new tide arrives. He is the emptying that makes fullness possible again. He is the end of the version of you that forgot how to grow. When you bring Shiva into your practices, your meditations, or your inner transitions, you are not calling a deity. You are calling the part of yourself that is no longer willing to lie. You are calling the clarity that has been waiting beneath your justifications. You are calling the courage that was buried under old emotional agreements. Shiva is not external. He is the frequency of your own uncompromised being. Every time you stop holding on to something that hurts, every time you let life reorganize you, every time you choose truth over comfort, you are already following Shiva. Shiva invites you to become unrecognizable to every outdated version of yourself. He does not evolve you slowly. He evolves you honestly. And honesty, when fully embraced, is always fast. It feels like destruction because the velocity of truth is incompatible with the inertia of old identity. Shiva is the acceleration that happens when you stop resisting who you are becoming. He is the spiral when it stops negotiating with fear. Shiva teaches you that freedom is not expansion, it is removal. You do not become free by adding more. You become free by subtracting everything that contradicts your true rhythm. You become free by recognizing what was never yours to carry. In Shiva's presence, you learn to release identities that were built from pain instead of potential. You learn to release relationships that survived through fear instead of resonance. You learn to release stories that were written by wounds instead of wisdom. Shiva removes what blocks your path so the spiral can move you forward. Shiva is the one who waits for you at the edge of your old life. He is the moment you realize you cannot go back. He is the clarity that turns endings into initiations. He is the part of the spiral that whispers, "You are not breaking, you are beginning."
Shiva moves into the second half of his teaching by dismantling the idea that transformation must be dramatic to be real. The mind is addicted to intensity, convinced that only the loudest experiences mark real change. But Shiva reveals that the deepest dissolving is often the quietest. The ego expects fire. Shiva brings a single breath. The ego waits for collapse. Shiva shifts something 1 degree and the entire life rearranges. The spiral does not always roar. Sometimes it turns so subtly that you only recognize the movement when the world no longer reacts to you in the old way. Shiva teaches you to trust the small dissolutions as much as the great ones. A single moment of clarity can end a decade of confusion if you let it. The deeper you travel into Shiva's field, the more you understand the difference between endings and closures. An ending happens when something stops. A closure happens when the energy that kept that something alive is released from your system. Most people end things but never close them, carrying the unfinished weight into the next cycle. Shiva steps into this unfinished space and completes what you were emotionally unwilling to conclude. He does not revisit the story. He ends the attachment to the story. Closure is what frees the spiral to turn cleanly. Without closure, each cycle becomes an echo of the last. Shiva breaks the echo. He restores the original frequency by dissolving what should have been released long ago. In Shiva's presence, you learn the discipline of simplicity. Complexity dissolves under his frequency because complexity is often a defense against truth. People complicate their healing, their relationships, their purpose, because complexity keeps the illusion alive that something external is responsible for their internal state. Shiva removes the unnecessary explanations and reveals the direct line. This is aligned, or it is not. This is true, or it is not. This is yours, or it is not. He makes the path unmistakable by eliminating every detour you used to justify staying where you no longer belong. Simplicity is not small, it is sovereign. When something is simple, you no longer have anywhere to hide. There is a moment in Shiva's field where you stop trying to protect the version of yourself that cannot survive the next level of your life. This is the moment people mistake for loss, but Shiva clarifies that what dies in this moment was never the self, only the structure you built to survive a reality that is no longer present. Identity is often a museum of old environments. Shiva asks you to walk out of it. He asks you to stop honoring the walls that once protected you but now restrict you. He challenges the narrative that survival deserves loyalty. You survived, now you must live. Shiva is not asking for sacrifice. He is asking for evolution, that you have already outgrown the need to postpone. When Shiva teaches devotion, he is not teaching surrender to him, but surrender to truth. Devotion, in his field, is the discipline of staying aligned even when old patterns seduce you with familiarity. Devotion is the willingness to act from clarity rather than habit. It is the commitment to presence instead of autopilot. People imagine devotion as worship, but Shiva's devotion is a form of inner accuracy, choosing the path that expands you instead of the one that repeats you. You become devoted not to an external being, but to the deepest version of yourself. Shiva does not ask for bowing, he asks for becoming. The spiral reveals another aspect of Shiva through the dissolution of time. Shiva does not operate inside linear sequencing. He arrives in the moment where your past and future collapse into the present truth. In this state, you are not healing the past. You are releasing the identity that kept the past alive. You are not manifesting the future. You are dissolving the distortions that prevented it from emerging. Shiva collapses time not through power, but through precision. When you are fully aligned, there is nothing to wait for. The spiral moves through you without resistance, and what you called future simply steps into form. Shiva is the end of delay. Shiva teaches the rare distinction between breaking and opening. Breaking is what happens when you resist change until the pressure exceeds your capacity to hold the old structure. Opening is what happens when you choose to release before the pressure arrives. Breaking is reactive. Opening is sovereign. Shiva asks you to open before life forces you to break. He asks you to choose release before destruction becomes the only teacher left. This is why his energy is misunderstood as harsh, because he invites you into a level of maturity that the ego interprets as threat. But opening is not threat, it is liberation. Shiva frees you from the destiny of unnecessary breaking. In Shiva's deeper field, silence becomes more powerful than intention. Intention is the language of a mind still adjusting its trajectory. Silence is the language of a self that has already arrived. When you sit in Shiva's silence, you begin to feel the difference between wanting and knowing. Wanting creates time, knowing dissolves it. Shiva dissolves the internal split that makes you negotiate with life. In this silence, your desires reorganize themselves into alignment. You stop wanting what contradicts your path. You stop chasing what drains your field. You stop praying for outcomes that your spirit has already outgrown. This is a sacred kind of stillness, not passive, not empty, but exact. As Shiva continues his turning, he reveals the truth about fear. Fear is not an obstacle, it is a doorway. It points directly at the boundary of your current identity. Fear is the edge where the next version of you begins. Shiva does not remove fear, he escorts you through it. He shows you that fear is not a signal to turn back, but a signal that you are no longer aligned with the smaller self who created it. Fear is the tremble of a mask that knows it is about to dissolve. When you step through fear in Shiva's presence, you are stepping into the truth that the spiral has been preparing for you long before you felt ready to receive it. There is a power in Shiva as energy that teaches you how to hold space for endings without collapsing into them. Most people either avoid endings or catastrophize them. Shiva does neither. He stands with complete stillness as a cycle closes, honoring its purpose without clinging to its form. He teaches you how to witness your own evolution without rushing it or resisting it. You learn to let go cleanly. You learn to hold gratitude for what is leaving without trying to resurrect it. You learn to release not from bitterness but from understanding. Ending becomes a skill. Closure becomes an art. Shiva is the teacher of essential completion. As the spiral turns through Shiva's final lessons, you begin to realize that dissolution is not the opposite of creation. It is the foundation of it. Nothing new can arrive while you are full of what no longer resonates. Shiva empties you so the spiral can fill you again. He clears the field so possibility can return. He reveals that your next becoming has been waiting on the other side of your refusal to let go. When you finally release what has been holding your life in place, the spiral rushes toward you with the momentum of everything you were meant to embody. Shiva is not the destroyer. He is the opener. He is the one who clears the way.
Shiva's last teaching is the most difficult. You must learn to trust what leaves. If something departs under Shiva's frequency, it was misaligned with your next cycle. The ego calls this loss. The soul calls it accuracy. Shiva is the guardian of your accuracy. He aligns your path by removing anything that cannot move into your next level without corrupting it. This is not cruelty, it is protection of your becoming. Shiva is the quiet assurance that what remains is real, and what left was already gone long before you acknowledged it. You do not invoke Shiva to change your life. You invoke Shiva to become incapable of living the life that shrinks you. When you walk with Shiva, you do not gain power. You lose pretense. You lose distortion. You lose everything that demanded you betray your deeper knowing. What remains is the clearest version of you, the version that can walk into any future without fear, because nothing fragile is holding you in place. Shiva is the spiral in its purest form, the turning that returns you to yourself.